Hello, good evening and welcome to another edition of your favorite program, Business Focus, your weekly business and economic analysis program. My name is Parkus Yasari. Today we're going to be speaking to the Managing Director of Intercity STC, the newly appointed Managing Director, Nana Komia. He'll be our guest on the program tonight to talk about the operational challenges affecting the business as well as his vision and plans for the company moving forward. We'll also be speaking about recent reforms being introduced by the central bank, first of all, to increase the stated capital for banks in the country, and also plans to limit the tenure for bank CEOs as well as directors and board members. My guest is Menson Tokonu, former Managing Director of Amal Bank. He's my guest also on the program on this particular discussion. On our mover segment tonight, we're going to be speaking to a young lady. She's Executive Director of Ariel's Havens and Spa, Olivia Mamle Donko. She'll tell us all about her business, her plans for the future, and how she hopes to widen the scope of operations of her business. Later on the program, Ben Amweje, an analyst with First Bank Financial Services, will join us with some analysis on the stock market as well as commodities market. We'll find out the price of gold, cocoa, as well as oil, and how it all impacts on the local economy. This is Business Focus, your weekly business and economic analysis program. We'll take this short commercial break. When we return, my guest, Menson Tokonu, you join us. All right, so welcome back to Business Focus, your weekly business and economic analysis program live here on TV3. My name is Parkus Yasari. So we'll start off with our very first subject, and that's got to do with the ongoing reforms currently being spearheaded by the central bank, the proposal to increase the stated capital and also limit the tenure of CEOs and directors of commercial banks. My guest in the studio is Mr. Menson Tokonu. He's a former managing director of Amal Bank, which is now Bank of Africa. Mr. Tokonu also consults for a number of companies, and he's taking time off his busy schedule to join us here tonight. Mr. Tokunu, thank you very much for your time and good to have you on the program.
Thank you. It's always my pleasure.
Great. So let's start off with plans to increase the stated capital for commercial banks. Too little, too late, you think?
Well, I don't think so. Some of us have spoken about this because the stated capital of banks in Ghana is rather very low. Well, I think it is in the right direction because when you have a big ticket transaction, give and take about $10 million, hardly could any bank do it. And at the same time, the Ghanaian Nigerian banks, they do it at the back of their parent companies in Nigeria. So the benefit that we are supposed to get, we don't get the ultimate. So I think it's very important that capital of banks in Ghana should be increased.
Why is the central bank deciding to do this at this point in time? Some have said $300 million cedis, others have said 400 million cedis. In your assessment, why is the central bank deciding to do this?
Well, I think they have been thinking of this for some time now. I think way back in 2015, we heard that they were actually going to do it. And I'm surprised that it's only now that they are doing it. Far back in 2006, 2007, I was advocating for the fact that stated capital of banks should be increased, because it becomes very frustrating when you have big ticket transactions and you can't do it because of the restrictions that we have. Well, I believe that some of the local banks will be saying that, we want to be small. But when you remain small, you will die small. So I think that it is right time now. The time is right now for the banks to increase their capital.
I have read certain articles and spoken to some former bank managing directors of banks who are quite upset about this move by the central bank. They think just a blanket, proposal to have the stated capital increased could be red herrings and could be an attempt to crowd out the indigenous banks.
Oh, I don't think so. Because, you see, the Bank of Ghana will not just come out one day and begin to say this. There is always an engagement. There is a discussion. They discuss with the chief executives of banks. And I'm very sure most of them have also contributed to the fact that the present stated capital is very small. We are an evolving economy. Big ticket transactions, oil deals are coming. So if you are small, if you have a small stated capital, and then you are limited by restrictions, single obligor by the central bank, that is Bank of Ghana, then you cannot get the real deal. For anyone to have the real deal and benefit very well, you need to have a very robust capital.
Are we not copying blindly? I mean, from the countries that we obviously may be trying to learn from, like Nigeria, for instance?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Nigeria is a bigger economy than Ghana, but we do a lot of deals. For instance, some of these oil deals we do, we do it from Nigeria. So I think it is time for us also, to raise our capital.
Others have also said that this could possibly lead to the crowding out of local banks, like I earlier stated. It could open the door for measures and acquisitions as well. And what's going to happen is that the smaller banks would eventually be crowded out.
I am all out for it. Nigeria, that has a bigger economy, has 24 or 25 banks right now. But in Ghana, I think we are about 36. And if we don't merge, I tell you honestly, banks will not be making any profit. I think 2-3 banks should merge. I've said in some other fora that in my own personal estimation, I think we should have not more than 12 banks in Ghana.
More than 12 banks?
Not more than 12
Not
banks.
more than 12 banks?
Yes.
And you don't mind if we don't have a single local bank operating in the country?
Well, it's not a question of local banks. We have some local banks. Why don't they come together? If they come together, they will play big with the other big banks. That is the only way to survive.
We probably would come back to this subject later on, but let's also talk about plans by the central bank to limit the tenure for chief executives of commercial banks as well as directors and board members. Let's start off with that of the chief executives. What do you make of it?
I think it's not a bad idea, but I think Bank of Ghana needs to have a lot of close engagement with these banks, because we have private banks and then we have banks that are owned by government. And I think if I own a bank and I think you are the right person to be my chief executive, I don't see the reason why Bank of Ghana should say that we should limit your tenure. I don't think so. So we need more engagement for this.
And that of the directors as well?
Yes, directors, I think it's in the same line. Now, in banks we have executive directors who are full-time employees of the banks, and then we have non-executive directors. Now, I think regarding the non-executive directors, I heard that Bank of Ghana is going to be giving an age limit. I think an age limit is not the answer. I think it's better that they limit the number of years that they serve in the banks.
I see. So what do you think the central bank is trying to achieve with all these reforms that it is introducing?
Well, I think it's just corporate governance. They don't want one person to just be in the show for a very long time. But I think with the supervision of banks, I don't think the Bank of Ghana should have any problem. But like I said, we need a lot of engagement with the private banks before we come out with any policy.
I said to you that I was going to let us return to the other subject about the increase in stated capital for commercial banks. And I've read elsewhere certain allegations and accusations about, how we've had how measures and acquisitions have been handled in this country and how the central bank has handled this process. Talk about the TTB and other processes. And some have suggested that the central bank, despite the fact that it's been clothed with independence and the right to be freely, operative without political influence, it has not exactly managed, issues of measures and acquisitions well in this country.
Well, I don't know where those accusations are coming from. The central bank, that is Bank of Ghana, is an independent body, void with political influence. So I don't think those accusations are in the right direction.
And just to conclude with it, there's a suggestion that the central bank would have to clearly set out its vision for the banking industry, whether it prefers foreign dominance to domestic control, and what level of foreign control of the industry it deems acceptable. What is your position on this matter?
Well, I think that is in the right direction. I don't think foreigners should come and take over the business in Ghana. There should be a restriction. I think in other jurisdictions we have the same restrictions. So I think restrictions regarding foreign dominance is in the right direction.
You don't think it's clearly spelled out as things stand?
As of now, it is not clearly spelled out, and I think Bank of Ghana should come out with a policy.
And especially at a time when we are, there's a clamor for banks to increase their stated capital. Don't you think this is a time we need to clearly spell out this?
You are right. You are right. Absolutely. I think this is the time to clearly spell out, the degree to which foreign banks, can come into Ghana, and the rest reserved for Ghanaians. I agree with that.
And just to wrap up with the issue about limiting the tenure for CEOs and directors. So if a private man establishes a bank on his own, are we suggesting that the central bank's, regulations or directives would impact on the operations of a private business?
I don't think the central bank or Bank of Ghana should be very much involved, because you see, a private bank, the owners select the chief executive, the directors, they select the chief executive. And I don't see the reason why Bank of Ghana should interfere with that. If you are talking of government-related banks, yes. But for a private bank, I don't think they should interfere at all.
Mr. Tokun, I'm going to say a big thank you to you very much for your time on the business program. So that was Mr. Menson Tokun. He's a former managing director of Amal Bank, now Bank of Africa, helping to clear out some issues within the banking industry. We're going to take this short break. When we return, we'll go for a mover segment. And then we'll bring you that all important interview with the Managing Director of Intercity State Transport Company. Hello, good evening and welcome to yet another edition of your favorite mover segment on Business Focus. Tonight we're inside South Labadi Estate and I'm going to be speaking to the Chief Executive Officer of Ariel's Haven Spa. She's the person of Olivia Donko. Hello, Olivia. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for coming.
Great. Thank you. How long have you been doing this?
This is 3 years we've been doing this.
Okay, so you tend to commemorate with a party or something?
Yes, we're going to have a bash. I'm going to invite you to come.
Oh, I'll be pleased to join you. So where did you get that inspiration from?
I got this inspiration about 10 years before I did this. So let's say about 13 years ago. It came to me as an inspiration. People's well-being. And for people to be well, they need to look well as well. So for me, grooming, wellness, and beauty has been my passion as I grew up. So I decided to follow my dreams and my vision. Grooming,
wellness, and beauty. Where do you get the initial capital to invest into this?
My own savings over the years as I was working.
How much was that?
I can say $500,000.
$500,000. So
yeah.
What did you do with that money? You acquired this place. You invested in the business.
Yes.
Tell me about it. What did you do with it?
I acquired this place. I set it up the way I want it to be. I bought my equipment. I invested in staff. I invested in marketing and all that. Yeah.
What brought you to the process of startup? Did you ever manage any business aside?
No, I didn't manage any business. I was still working in the airline aviation industry when I decided to do this.
Okay.
So I'm still working and I'm doing this as well.
So 3 years back, how many workers did you start with?
I've always been maintaining between 8 to 10 staff. Yeah.
Why
8
so?
to 10 staff. Because that's the number I need for a day-to-day operations to be run effectively.
Tell me about the challenges in this industry, because I'm fully aware there are a number of beauty and spa companies in Ghana today. So how's a challenge like?
The challenge is more of people, of the education people have of what they're supposed to do at a spa and why they have to go to a spa. So there's people need a lot of education. People see going to spa as just a luxury. That is not part of something they need for their well-being, but it's part of your well-being. So the challenge we have as a spa in the country is how to get people to patronize the service because they think it's not necessary for their well-being.
And again, talking about competition, I know there are also other brands out there, brands that perhaps existed way before you started. So how are you measuring up to that competition in terms of pricing?
In terms of pricing, I am almost apart to most of the spa, but I usually don't look at my competitors as, the other spas as competition because we all have a unique vision. If you follow your vision, then you don't look at following what somebody else is doing. So I follow my vision much more than looking at what my competitors are doing.
What are your plans for the future? You've done 3 years already. What are your plans for the future?
My plans for the future is big.
Tell me about it.
Well, I want to have a big wellness spa. That when you come there, you know that this is not just a spa. It's not just somewhere that you just go into, have a massage and go. A whole wellness center. And
how many years are you looking at from now?
Maybe in the next 4 or 5 years.
Next 4 or 5 years. How much do you need to do that?
Are you going to give me?
Let's just say, you have the opportunity of meeting a billionaire who gave you a 1 minute chance to just pitch.
Okay, I'm looking about $3 million.
$3 million to do that.
Yeah.
Set up a real big spa.
Yeah.
A multi-purpose one.
Multi-purpose wellness center.
Wow. Wow. Like you said, spa business is a bit alien to us Ghanaians, or let me say Africans, so we see it as a luxury. If you have the opportunity to speak to young ones who wanted to start a business and were wondering or asking themselves, is this really an opportunity I can venture into? How would you convince them that this is not just a luxury, but it's also a necessity?
I will convince them first by their understanding that wellness matters. When you appreciate the industry, it's easy for you to invest into it. If you don't appreciate the industry yourself, you don't see why you should invest in it. If you are investing only because of money, it becomes difficult. Because as soon as you're not seeing money coming, you get discouraged. So you should have a focus more on what your vision is. You believe in the industry that helps people. And everything we do, we should be people-focused, not money-focused. So what I would encourage them to look at is, are you really interested in the industry? Is that your vision? Do you have a passion for it? If you don't have a passion for it, it's not worth coming into it because you may get discouraged on the way.
Are you reaping the fruits of your labor?
Yes, I am. I'm enjoying myself.
Olivia, I know you've also worked in the aviation industry. You talked about that briefly.
Yeah.
And then you diverted a bit into spa. What sort of role did you play in the aviation industry?
I started from administration, then I went into ticketing, and then, yes. And then I'm in operations.
Okay, so you're still doing it?
Yes, I still do aviation.
Yeah. Does that work hand in hand with what you're doing, or does it conflict in any way?
It doesn't. My hours at work doesn't conflict with what I'm doing here. No, it doesn't. Wellness coaching is more about lifestyle change, and about 78 to 98% of lifestyle diseases, which are chronic diseases, are all because of lifestyle. The way we drink, the things we eat, we don't have time to rest. So wellness coaching is based on the 8 dimensions of wellness that we coach people to bring their life into a balance around these dimensions so they can live a fulfilling life and meet their maximum potential. Everybody has a potential, but before you meet that potential, you need to live a certain lifestyle.
So I've also got a potential.
You have, and
Tell
I
me,
need
what
to
do I need to do? What do I need to do?
unearth that. You
Tell
need
me.
to
So you're going to manage me, right?
live life towards high-level wellness.
Okay.
Instead of premature death.
Okay. Thank you very much, Olivia Donkor.
Thank
She's
you.
been our guest on the Movers segment. You're welcome back to Business Focus, your weekly business and economic analysis program. We just brought you the Movers segment with Olivia Donkor. She's Executive Director of Ariel's Havens and Spa. Now, operational challenges such as a lack of buses have over the years adversely impacted on the fortunes of the once vibrant State Transport Company, which offered transport services between Accra and all major regional capitals in the country, as well as other West African countries. Well, today we visited the managing director, the newly appointed managing director of the company, Nana Komia, to find out his vision for the company and what he intends to do to turn around the fortunes of the company. The company has recently taken delivery of some 100 new buses under a 6-year agreement signed with Nordic Logistics Company as part of initiatives towards reclaiming its position as market leader in the transport services sector. But how will this new commercial arrangement turn the financial and operational fortunes of the company and thereby reduce its reliance on major stakeholders for assistance? We're here tonight with the managing director of the Intercity State Transport Company, Nana Komia. Nana, are you still the communications director of the New Patriotic Party?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming here. Yes, I'm still the communications director, but very soon a new substantive communications director will be appointed.
Let me formally congratulate you on your new position as managing director of the State Transport Company. Tell me, what's the current state of the Intercity State Transport Company?
Well, it is no secret that this company had fallen on bad times. Everybody will tell you that STC business is not good. And it's quite evident that the company has been struggling. We have lost the pride of place that we used to have in public transportation, especially intercity transportation. We used to be the dominant transportation company. But over the years, we've fallen into some decline, and everybody knows it. And one of the things that excites me about this appointment, and indeed that is why I asked the president for this appointment, is to be able to see if we can make a difference, bring some of the enthusiasm that we have for national policy, to bring some of it to STC and see if we can turn it around.
We're going to be talking about that kind of enthusiasm that you hope to bring to STC, but before that, there have been concerns about the viability of the State Transport Company over the years. How do you respond to that? Why is the company not that viable?
In the Nkrumah era, in the 1960s, it was changed to State Transport Corporation, basically operating under state public service mindset. And so that meant that government will have to buy them buses. But people's salaries, people's conditions of service will be fulfilled as part of the public service or the civil service. And so that business element was largely missing. Because once government is buying buses, the government, if you make a loss, government will underwrite it. If you make a loss, you still get your salary, you still get your pension, you still get whatever, you know. So I believe that has largely contributed to a certain civil service culture. Now, because you rely on government to buy you buses, because you are a state company, when government is not able to buy you buses, then you are left stranded. And for a long period, for about 10 years, government was not buying any new buses for us, the company.
And we're going to come back to moving forward and what you intend to do. But talking of which, you've recently entered into an agreement with Nordic Logistics Company. What does this entail?
That's part of the moving forward. In fact, it demonstrates very clearly to the whole world that this is going to be the new model of STC, that we are not going to rely on government to buy us buses. Government buys you buses. There's a lot of difficulties with that, especially in terms of the pricing that is put on it. You know, there have been difficulties over the period with that kind of that mode of acquiring buses. And all the inefficiencies that come with running a government bus. So,
recently taking delivery of 100 new buses?
Moving forward. We need to move away from this mode of government buying us buses. And we pay in over 6, 7 years, 8 years. And by the time you finish paying, the buses have run down. But you don't have enough money to replace the stock. And then so you have to wait till government buys you new buses again. And government gets tired that I bought you buses 7 years ago. Why am I going to buy you buses with taxpayers' monies again? So we're moving out of that model. We're going to operate a model where we would engage the private sector. So entrepreneurs with investment capital can invest in the buses. And we will partner them, leveraging our infrastructure, the terminals, the brand, the routes. We will leverage that in that partner.
And you think they are interested in that?
The interest has been overwhelming. And fortunately, STC itself in the last couple of years, 2 years or so, has come to realize that they need to move away from that model of government buying buses and engage the private sector.
You've got other private entities, private vehicle operators to contend with. You've got VIP, for instance, to compete with. How do you intend to, measure up to all these competition on the market?
Well, the competition should make us better, because we are also now going to operate along the same lines that the private transport sector has been operating. And fortunately for us, we have the name, we have the brand, and we have superior infrastructure. Our terminals, no private transport company has the kind of terminals that we have. It's now up to us to leverage this infrastructure. So we have an advantage. They had the advantage of operating along business/commercial lines. They don't have the infrastructure we have. Now we are also going to operate along business and commercial lines, and we have superior infrastructure. So we should give them a run for their money. We should be setting the pace for them. There are slow-hanging fruits that we can harvest. Our drivers, they are the best trained public transport drivers in Ghana. We're going to make sure that they have uniforms that show that these are the best trained transport operators, drivers in Ghana. We're getting into private partnership where people are going to set up facilities here to provide vehicle roadworthy inspections here. Very modern, state-of-the-art roadworthy inspections. We're going to set them up in all our terminals. And look at where our terminals are. Our terminals today are in the middle of the cities. Look at the head office alone. Look at the catchment area. If you want to do roadworthy today, you may have to travel to Waja, or you may have to travel to Domi. You see. But look at this place. Look at the volume of cars in this catchment area. So if we have a state-of-the-art vehicle inspection unit here, you can imagine the volume of business that will be coming. Unfortunately, private people have expressed a lot of interest.
It's exciting, and listening to you, I get a lot of vim from your talk, but it's not as simple as you make it sound, Nana.
Why do you say so?
Because it's one thing coming up with the fine ideas, you know, to regulate your activities. It's another thing getting the work done.
You know, ideas run the world.
Right.
You can always get capable managers, but it's the idea that turns the world. And if you look at all the periods where the world turned, they turned on ideas. And sometimes the simpler the idea, the better. The biggest idea that is going to move STC forward is the idea of changing the business model, changing it from a civil service, public service, government service model to a business commercial model, looking at what the private sector is doing and improving it, leveraging our infrastructure. It's a very simple idea, but it is so powerful. And you see, when you look at the private sector, they've been very successful. And the VIPs, the OAs, and so on, they've done it with scant infrastructure. And we have the best infrastructure. So it's a matter of adapting their models and leveraging it on our infrastructure. And you will see the results very soon.
Over the past few years, if my memory serves me right, I remember that staff of STC haven't backed on demonstrations over possibly poor conditions of service. How does your new management intend to deal with staff motivation, remuneration, to ensure that they also give of their best?
Yes, it all comes from back to the business model. Mm-hmm. When you are operating the model that government should buy us buses, mm-hmm. and government is not able to buy you the buses, you cannot pay your staff, and they would go on demonstration. Mm-hmm. But if you turn around that model and invite the private sector to providing the key ingredients of the buses, and then you'll be able to run your routes, all the routes to their maximum capacity. And then you'll be able to generate money. And of course, you must close the leakages. People have been earning 200 cedis, but they've stayed with the company for a long time. There are all kinds of leakages. Plug those leakages. And I've been meeting with my management every day. We're looking at ways that we can plug the leakages. So you can, assure yourself of the revenue. You'll be able to pay everybody better. Mm-hmm. And workers will agitate because the conditions of service are not good. Mm-hmm. The conditions of service are not good because you don't have the buses that will generate the revenue. So once you have an arrangement that can allow the buses to come in, then you're on your way to recovery and to rewarding your employees better.
Just to wrap up, you've got at least a 4-year mandate, is it?
Yes.
By which time, what should become of the STC?
Get into profit, that's all.
That's all you need to say?
Yes, so it means that everything, fleet management, customer care, reliability, safety, the whole works. At the end of the day, is your profits that must show.
We're going to hold you accountable to that.
Do that.
Thank you very much, Nana, the new managing director of the Intercity STC. He's been our guest on Business Focus tonight. Thank you very much for watching. Ben, good to have you. Tell us what's happening on the commodities market.
Well, it looks like gold is taking a hit. It looks like it's becoming increasingly likely that the U.S. interest rates are going to rise in June. And because of that, gold always sinks when interest rates are rising in the U.S. And that is giving gold, some kind of retreat, which is bad for us. We're all expecting gold prices to rebound so that gold production would rise and all that. So we will be looking to see how that pans out. Oil has sunk further to over $48 per barrel.
Right.
And the chaos is too much. I mean, everybody's expecting that the OPEC deal will be
Increase
extended.
Inventories from the U.S.
Exactly, and it looks like the U.S. producers have not been affected by whatever OPEC is doing, and so the huge supply on the market seems to still be sinking crude oil prices.
There's certainly going to be a meeting, an OPEC meeting,
Exactly,
25th of May, I think.
25th of May, and they are looking at extending the deal. You know, it was supposed to end in June, so they are considering the possibility of extending it because it appears that over the last 6 months, whatever they planned didn't really pan out the way they would want it to be. Oil prices have actually fallen below $50 per barrel. So
And for us as a net importer of crude,
that's always good.
there should come as some good news for us.
Always,
that's
always good.
assuming all things are constant.
Assuming all things
If
are
we
constant.
have, our CD appreciating at the time.
Of course, then it will be good for us. But then, again, the point also has to be made that some of the key input to our budget depends on the oil prices.
Right.
So that's also a little bit of a trade-off over there. But I think in the long run, or
Especially when you
know,
consider the estimate that they used for the budget.
for the budget, yes, by the Ministry of Finance. But I think all in all, it's better when crude prices are lower for us.
Ben,
At
I'm
least
sorry
for
we've got to go.
Don't worry.
Our time is up. So that's all for the Business Focus. Came to you live from our studio agency here at TV3. My name is Parkwasiasari. Thanks to the production team. We'll see you same time next week.